and justice for all. At this time, I'll turn the program over to Brian Gottschall. Brian is the director of the Berks County Department of Emergency Services. He's also the lead on the Berks County COVID-19 leadership team, and he's here today with the Berks County COVID-19 data report. Brian?
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, March 25th, our weekly data report. First look at the Pennsylvania Early Warning Dashboard. As always, a little bit out of date from last Friday, the most current publication of this data. It's worthy of noting that on the state's early warning dashboard, we do see the leading indicators with respect to cases and incident rate and positivity all showing upticks. And, this is concerning. I'm not suggesting that we're in a catastrophe here or that the sky is falling, but it is important for the public to be attentive to these numbers and not become complacent. We'll show a little bit more detail about that later on in the report. I also do want to note that our hospitalization-based statistics do continue to show flat movement or even a small downward trend. Again, not anything to be overly enthusiastic about because they are lagging indicators compared to case rate. More to talk about that in a moment. This shows our testing in the orange line and our case count in the blue line, smoothed over 7 and 14 days respectively. I think it's very obvious to anybody as we look at the right-hand side of the chart there that we did see a belly, if you will, in the early part of March, and we do start to see the case count climbing again. Again, this is a smooth statistic. It doesn't show day-to-day variations, but one of the things that kind of adds a little bit of concern on top of the smooth statistic is that our most recent daily numbers are not looking as good as they had been either. Our first test positivity also going up again from a smooth low point early in March, indicating a larger amount of COVID in the community than we had previously, where the testing that's being done, what percentage is coming back positive. And as we always note, these numbers appear significantly larger than the state's numbers because this data that we show culls out the serial testing and custodial care facilities. On the good news front, we continue to show a fairly flat line in our COVID deaths, each one of them individually being, of course, a tragedy, but for the community as a whole, maintaining a reasonably flat number, and this is really what we want to happen. If people got COVID and they didn't have to be hospitalized and there wasn't an economic impact, and God forbid they didn't die, we probably wouldn't care too much about COVID. But because it does have those potential outcomes, we do need to be focused on it. Good news, this particular outcome of COVID deaths remaining relatively flat. I brought this slide. We haven't looked at this for the past few weeks because our case count has looked pretty good for the last few weeks. But I felt the need to bring the slide back into the deck this week because we are seeing an increase in our case counts. And just to recap for those that may not remember or for those that are seeing this for the first time, this is taking two graphics with two different scales and putting them on the same slide. So the black line is our COVID deaths and the blue line is our COVID cases. And the scale for the blue line is on the left-hand side of the screen. The scale for the black line is on the right-hand side of the screen. And we see that max scale for deaths is 180, max scale for cases is 5,000. So you can't look at these lines in direct relationship to one another as far as the numbers. What you want to look at is how the lines trend and how the peaks and valleys follow each other. And what we know is that deaths are a trailing indicator to cases, which are a leading indicator. And as the cases begin to move, the deaths start to follow weeks later. And I bring this to your attention because we start to see the cases rising again, even though our deaths are relatively low. Of course, what we want to avoid is those deaths beginning to follow the cases and start to trend upwards again. Unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that statistically, some percentage of people who contract COVID will die from it. And as a result, as we see case counts start to climb, it inevitably means that a number of weeks later, deaths will start to climb also. This is why we need to keep the case count as reasonably low as we can. Our hospital numbers continue to look very good. Again, I mean, objectively, there's a small uptick here from last week to this week, but that's not a significant uptick. And I will point out that these numbers include, as it shows on the slide, both known and suspected cases in-house. So these are cases that have tested by molecular testing as positive or have testing pending, and the people are being treated under COVID precautions in the event that they are COVID positive. It's suspected that they are. Our county to county comparison, our testing continues to be relatively flat, not moving week over week. Our deaths also relatively flat. Of somewhat concern is that in the last 2 weeks, we have seen Berks climb in the order in cases per capita over the last 2 weeks, one position in each of those weeks. And while this isn't a quote unquote competition among counties to see who can do better, we all need to do better. It is concerning that we see in Berks County our case counts going up week over week, and it indicates that we probably need to be attentive to that as a community and try to do better in our mitigation efforts and avoiding the spread of the virus in the community. Marginally good news. I mean, I'd love to see Berks at the top of the list here, but a week ago we were 12th in number of partially vaccinated and 14th in number of fully vaccinated. As of this week, we're 11th and 12th in those two categories. So I wouldn't call that a success story. I would call that holding our own. But in this difficult environment, sometimes holding your own is the best that you can reasonably do. This slide I brought in a couple weeks ago because I thought they were compelling graphics that did show kind of how counties are doing with each other. The fact of the matter is that over the last couple weeks, the colors really haven't changed. I mean, I guess the good news is that says that no county is doing significantly worse week to week, but also no county is doing significantly better. The colors remain pretty much the same on a week to week basis. Blue showing partial administrations per capita, red full administrations per capita, and being able to use the colors to compare county to county how things are going. What we want is to be the darkest we can be in each of these maps. This is a little bit new. I'm going to spend a moment here. The state has done what I think is a really great thing in changing the on the state website how they are projecting vaccine opportunities in the community. So the first thing they've done is they've gotten rid of all the background noise on the map of providers that were getting vaccine but are no longer getting vaccine or no longer part of the program. And they're focused strictly on the providers that are getting vaccine on a weekly basis, with the dark blue dots being state allocations, as they call it. These are pharmacies or hospital or healthcare providers that are getting allocations directly from the Commonwealth, and then the light blue diamonds being federal allocations through the retail pharmacy partnership. So I don't want to get brand specific, but the blue diamonds are effectively the large chain pharmacies, if you will. And instead of also showing people that are getting second doses, because if I'm a consumer and I've already had my first dose, I already know where I'm going to get my second dose. What I really care about is if I haven't gotten anything yet and I want to find a place where I can go to get that first dose. So I think the state has done a good thing in changing their map to show only first dose opportunities now, and to demonstrate where those are the blue diamonds, the retail pharmacy partnership providers, or the blue circles, the state allocated healthcare and other pharmacies. Also, it's worthy of note that last week there were about 20,000 total doses, that does include first and second doses, received among 19 providers in Berks County. We've been able to make our weekly eye chart a little bit easier to read, our tabular information, by scaling it back to, again, only showing those 19 providers that are actually getting vaccine now, and continuing to include the total amount of vaccine that they've received since the beginning, but scaling the list back to those 19 active providers. Again, showing our weekly allocations, we do see from our low point of week 8, which was about 6 weeks ago, to where we are today, a significant climb in the number of doses coming into Berks County. I want to emphasize again, what's shown on this chart are a total of first and second dose opportunities, but we continue to see that number climb week over week. Just to kind of brace everybody, I don't think we're going to see it continue to climb in the way that we have over these last few weeks. I think that we're going to be at a plateau at this point for the foreseeable future. future based on some information we got from DOH, which I'll address in just a moment. This shows the top 10 most populated counties in the Commonwealth and the cumulative placement in comparison to each other when controlled per capita for the vaccine that's been received over the 14 weeks. And again, this shows a little bit of good news, not as good as we'd like it to show. But when you look at the amount of vaccine that came into the top 10 counties over the full 14 weeks of vaccinating, you see some very concerning numbers. The reality is that if doses were coming to counties strictly based on population, theoretically, everybody would be tied for first place because it would be a direct allocation by population. And no matter how big your population was or how small it was, the amount of vaccine that you got per capita would all be equal and we'd all be tied for first. That's not going to be the case. So we do look at these ranked by 100K of population. And we would expect to see the numbers reasonably go right down the chart 1 to 10, like the population in the left-hand column goes down the chart 1 to 10. In fact, we see that with the exception of Lehigh, the most populated counties in the Commonwealth are in the bottom half in most cases, or at least near the middle of the chart. DOH has acknowledged this, and they've given a number of reasons, some potentially justifiable, for why the allocation to the most populated counties has not been where it should be. And they've said that they're going to fix this moving forward by making sure that the allocations are more in line with population. And when we take this data and we look only at week 14 alone at the bottom of the chart, we see that the numbers appear much better. They're still not where they need to be. They're still not showing the top 10 counties being in the top 10 or 15 throughout the Commonwealth. But they're certainly a lot better than where they have been, and that indicates positive change, that as we go out week over week and see these larger counties be in the higher end of the dose per capita, that then is going to, of course, slowly, very slowly, bring up the cumulative dose per capita numbers to something that makes a little bit more sense. But I guess in an effort to ensure the public, we, the county, particularly the county commissioners and your state and federal legislative delegations, continue to lobby on behalf of Berks County and these other most populated counties to try to get these dose allocations up where they really need to be given our population. Commissioner Weinbach, I see you have a question. I'll pause there.
Yes, actually a comment. Yesterday I was on a call with two other county commissioners, Commissioner Moskowitz from Chester County and Commissioner Lawrence from Montgomery County. And Commissioner Lawrence said to me, Commissioner Weinbach, and I don't know if it was email or a phone call, but he's heard now from several residents that have said to him, why can't Montgomery County get their act together like Berks County? I was able finally to get a vaccine through Berks County. And it made me smile because I've heard and I told him, I've heard people and know people that have gotten vaccines in Montgomery County and Lehigh County specifically. And I just share that this is a frustration that continues across these larger counties. And we all are advocating strongly with the Commonwealth. And as you note, there has been some positive movement, but we're not where we need to be.
Yeah, and look, I think, Commissioner, just to be completely transparent and honest with the public, I think we have to say, while we certainly like to hear somebody make a comment that casts Berks in a positive light, it really isn't that Berks County as a government did anything right. And this is important because it's a sword that cuts both ways. We as Berks County government have our hands very much tied to affect this situation positively or negatively. And I think that some of the criticism that comes to county government as dropping the ball is somewhat misplaced because we have such a limited ability to affect it. But then likewise, we also have to acknowledge that when people are complimentary to Berks County government, it's that we have a very limited impact in having made these changes. We can lobby, we can make phone calls, we can try to show people data and convince them that what's going on is wrong. But at the end of the day, it's really about the vaccine providers that DOH has designated to deliver this vaccine, getting it out the door properly, and it's about DOH itself allocating the vaccine to the providers within the counties properly. So we talk about Berks County, but it's really Berks County as a geographical place, not Berks County as a geopolitical entity. Again, I just think it's important that the public really understand who all the players are and who has the ability to influence what. So my last slide is kind of an update to, we introduced this last week. We gave some information. Last week, we acknowledged that there was still some information that was hazy because we had only literally gotten it from DOH the night before the commissioners meeting. And I think we're now able to bring some more clarity to this. So we announced last week that DOH was going to be focusing on these 8 key providers. That really hasn't changed. The 8 key providers are still in place. We've clarified since last week that the intent of delivering approximately 12,000 doses a week into Berks County is in fact 12,000 first doses. So that's good to know. We weren't clear last week how that included second doses and whether that was going to make the number go down. But reasonably, that means that we should see 12,000 new people be able to get vaccinated at Berks County sites in any given week for the foreseeable future, and that the retail pharmacy partnership program will remain in place. So those are doses over and above the 12,000 that are coming into Berks County. And the last thing I want to mention or clarify is just some information that we got in the last day or two from the state about Johnson & Johnson. I think we had all believed, and I'm going to turn this slide off and go to my camera, but we had all believed that Johnson & Johnson was perhaps going to be somewhat of a saving grace of the vaccinating effort because of it being a single shot vaccine and because we had been hearing information at the federal level about very big numbers of this vaccine coming down the pike. In fact, the state had put in place a plan to open what they were calling targeted vaccinating clinics in conjunction with 6 large regional vaccinating centers around the Commonwealth based on what they believed the allocation of Johnson & Johnson vaccine was going to be. We were told as of, I guess, Tuesday morning, I think, no, I'm sorry, it was Wednesday morning, that the federal estimate of the amount of J&J vaccine that is going to be produced is dramatically overstated. And in fact, the state is now expecting to see approximately a third of what they had originally been told they were going to see. That has taken this vision of targeted vaccinating clinics for certain members of the 1B population somewhat off the table. The state is still working on a plan that would allow this subset of 1B people to go to retail pharmacies and receive direct allocation in that way. But the concept of state or county managed TVCs is now off the table. The state does say that the 6 regional vaccinating centers that they're going to be supporting, they believe still are on the table, although the scale of those, the total throughput of those locations may have to now be scaled back due to the amount of J&J that's going to be coming down the pike. So we gave some good news there in the presentation, but the overarching bad news is that it appears that the amount of vaccine coming into the system at the federal level going out to the states and therefore coming down to us is going to remain relatively flat for the foreseeable future. So that's not what we would like to hear, but it's simply a fact of the matter.
Yeah, and we did get that information yesterday. I happened to be on a call yesterday afternoon with the National Association of Counties on federal vaccine distribution and asked this question, if they could tell us, one, was it true that the Johnson & Johnson supply, at least coming to Pennsylvania, was cut dramatically? And if so, could they tell us why? They didn't know anything about it, and that's understandable. There's a lot of moving parts. They did take my email and said they would look into it and get back to us. Additionally, Brian, we have a comment, and it is directly related to your report. So instead of waiting till the end, I'd like to read the comment and give you an opportunity to clarify or address the question or statement. Becky Ellis Redding, good morning, commissioners. I just wanted to point out something that I myself just realized in the past 2 days. When we look at the early warning dashboard for COVID-19 cases here in Berks County, it does not account for probable cases of COVID-19, since the data on the dashboard deals exclusively with positivity rates. The probable cases are included in the daily case count under new cases when reported by the Pennsylvania Department of Health. The reason that I point this out is that in the most recent 7 days, ranging from March 17th to March 23rd, probable and confirmed cases were 1150 with an incident of 273 cases per 100,000 people here in our county. Anything that you can do to push for expanding countywide vaccination clinics is greatly needed, since the current 7-day data from March 17th to March 23rd shows an increase of 275 cases from the prior 7 days. Data indicates that we could be approaching another wave of cases here in Berks County, and is important to get our community protected by getting everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. So I'm going to break that up into two pieces. It's kind of two comments or questions interrelated there. The first one is about the data. The second one's about the vaccine. So addressing the data part of the question, Ms. Ellis is 100% correct. The data that is in the state dashboard is about confirmed cases. That's the reason we show the state dashboard, because it's an important data point. It's out there in the public and we want to acknowledge its existence. But also, that's the reason that we show our slide, and I apologize, I'll show my screen again, that includes both confirmed and probable cases. So it's very important that folks realize that probable doesn't mean like, geez, somebody had the sniffles, so we think it might be COVID and it's probable. Probable is a fairly significant indication that the person has COVID because it includes rapid antigen testing. So in other words, to get on the confirmed list, you have to have a PCR, a molecular test. To get on the probable list, you have to have a positive antigen test. The false positive rate of those tests, when administered properly, like they are in a healthcare environment, is low enough that I think that it's a pretty significant standard to expect that if somebody had a positive antigen test, they in fact are positive for COVID. So that's the reason we lump in both confirmed and probable cases when we're looking at the testing counts in Berks County in the data shots that we show for the public. So I hope that explained a little bit about why the state dashboard does what they do, why we do what we do, and why we show both, because we want the public to be fully informed about both. Rolling forward into the vaccinating discussion there, again, I mean, certainly there's no argument to be made with Ms. Ellis's point that we need to be delivering more vaccines in Berks County. The commissioners have very publicly noted the efforts that we have ongoing to open a clinic in Berks County under county sponsorship in conjunction with our healthcare partner, the Berks County Community Health Center. But listen, folks, the reality is this. I've used this analogy a couple times, and I apologize if somebody listening has heard it already. We can build all the gas stations we want in Berks County, but if there's no gas going into the underground tanks, what we've got is a gas station that's mothballed waiting to receive a gas tanker to deliver gasoline. That's where we're at right now with vaccine. Our providers in Berks County have the capability to deliver approximately 17,000 doses a week in the discussions that we've had with them. They're being provided under that level right now. So until there's a significant amount of new vaccine coming into the county from the state or from another direct federal source, the ability to deliver more vaccine is somewhat anecdotal. We need both of those things to work hand in hand, delivery capacity as well as vaccine to satisfy that capacity. And it really is a two-pronged problem that we're working on both prongs of to the extent that we can. So I hope that helps to explain a little bit about what Ms. Ellis was commenting on.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments or questions for Brian? Thank you. I'll recognize my colleague, Commissioner Kevin Barnhart, with the County Co-Wellness Contact Tracing Report.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach and Brian Gottschall and everyone who has joined us this morning. I have some, again, news to parallel what Brian has been indicating. Our Co-County Wellness Report for the week is the worst one we have seen since June. We had 500 new contacts last week with a success rate of 72.8. Again, they're doing a yeoman's job in contacting people and contact tracing. We have now eclipsed 10,402 contacts since inception. And I think there was a time we were at 20, 30, 40 line lists. And I had mentioned this several times in the past about mostly schools and educational institutions. We're at 63 line lists for last week. 500 contacts, over 10,000 cumulative, and 63 line lists last week. So we are not going in a good direction. Just briefly, we continue to move forward with the vaccination clinic task force. We met again yesterday. We will be having an 888 phone number, which will be published shortly. That is also going to be coupled with software package for proper scheduling for this clinic. Ads will be produced and put out in social media and billboards probably through the Area Agency on Aging. BARDA, our local mass transit authority, has already started to move people on shared ride to vaccine appointments throughout the community. They're probably close to 100 transports thus far for people who do not have transportation. One of the things that was pointed out yesterday, and this is probably more anecdotal than anything, we got a feeling that a lot of the people that sign up for lists are on several different lists, as we all well know. Some people are on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lists. But the rate of when there are clinics held and vaccination centers held, it's like a 25% of the people who are scheduled to go don't go. So there's this running around on Saturday to call additional people and say, by the way, we were hoping for 1,000 people, only 750 showed up. So they have to scramble and try to make sure all these vaccines get used. So hopefully as time moves on in the next few weeks, these lists will become smaller and people will be more focused on a single list. And why I say this, at this clinic in Muhlenberg Township, we're going to be very highly restrictive as to the number of people on that list, because we don't want to waste people's time and energy. We really want to focus on people who will be able to get vaccinated at the site in Muhlenberg Township. Once vaccines start to pick up, probably early April, we'll see the opening of that facility. And last but not least, I do want to roll into this report. Our positive cases at the jail are presently 23 inmates and 4 staff. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to you, Commissioner Leinbach.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnhart. We do have a special presentation today. Terry Lampy-Melcher is the Business Development Manager with the Manufacturers Resource Center, and she's here to give us an update about what's so cool about manufacturing. This is an ongoing program with high school kids. I've been able to participate in the past, pre-COVID. It's an amazing program. Glad to have Terry Lampy-Melcher. She's on the phone, so we'll have a slide up to recognize her. Terry.
Hi, good morning, and thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity to talk to you and everyone about this wonderful program. So we are going to give you a brief update on what's so cool. We're celebrating our 5th year in Berks County this year, which is fantastic, and also a very brief introduction on a new program that we're launching this year called the Dream Team. Just a little bit about this first slide. MRC has been an impactful economic development partner for over 30 years here in Berks County. Our focus is exclusively on manufacturers, and we provide professional training and development from onboarding workers all the way up to executive level. We also have expert resources from regional, national, international sources that we provide to manufacturers right here in Berks. And we have funding opportunities to help them pay for some of this training and other expert resources that they need in their plants to become globally competitive. So I'm going to introduce now my colleague, Karen Buck. Karen is the Manager of Workforce Initiatives, And Karen and I work very closely on What's So Cool and also the Dream Team.
Thank you, Terry. Good morning, everyone. I'm hoping that you can see the slides. Is there a confirmation, Lori?
If you would reshare your
slideshow. Yes, we can see the slides. Go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Very good to be here this morning. I manage the workforce programs at MRC, and basically the aim of our department is development since 2014, and we have grown exponentially throughout the state. And so this is a 2-minute video, which we are not going to watch, but I did want to let you know it is on the What's So Cool website that really gives you an overview of the growth and impact that this program has had as far as career awareness in an entire community about jobs in manufacturing. And here's just a few highlights of that video. You can see that over the last 8 years that we have been in 58 counties in Pennsylvania, 57% of the school districts, the 508 videos of unique manufacturers. We developed a video library just this year on the What's So Cool website with easy search and filter tools, so you can go on and watch really whatever video that you'd like to see. And you can also see the list of the 500 Pennsylvania manufacturers. And that is a true number. They're really worth 3 million online public votes in the last few years. In that big statewide program, where does Berks County fit? And really, it's such a great story. We have been in 100% of the school districts in just 4 years. And here's a list of that. I want to leave it up there for 1 minute so folks can find their own school district on there. And you can see that you can go onto the video library and search your school and watch your school's videos. And then as far as featured manufacturers, which are the Berks County manufacturers that we have showcased in these student videos? And here's a list of the Berks County manufacturers that are featured. And again, you can go right into that library and watch videos. Some of them have more than one video. This is a little bit of the highlights of what in this big program that any given year has 250 middle schools involved across the state. Look at these awards that Berks County has brought in. And I'm hoping that we can watch this particular video of Reading Southern featuring Novapax. It's a 2-minute video, but well worth 2 minutes. So I'll give it a shot on my end.
And Karen, this is Terry again. While you're bringing that up, Berks County over the past few years has been the largest and the most impactful program in the state. So we've been larger than most of these other programs like in Pittsburgh and Philly and so forth. So our manufacturers and our community have been fully engaged in this program.
That is correct. So here's
Excuse me, Karen?
Yes?
Could you please reshare while you're doing the video?
Oh,
we
sure.
lost our connection with you.
Okay, and I'm going to say yes. Let me just say yes on the computer sound.
Yeah, people are tired of looking at me, so
Well,
go to something
it's a
other
good
than
thing.
me, the better the people will feel.
Okay. So let's see if we can you see that video?
Yes. If you want to take it to full screen, that will help.
My secret weapon is data. Labels are important. It's a countermark for how many trades we have and how we identify our trades. When you're writing down your information, calculator is not always available, so math is a great tool.
have my tape gun. If I didn't have my tape gun, I don't even think I could pack half the lines. I'm on the table. I'm just straight business. Trays.
My superpower is strength. First, I check our silo readings. After I check the silo readings, I go and I write those numbers on the board so that our operators are able to know what to look for.
Brain power. 100% my brain. You kind of need critical thinking out there on the floor to be able to solve problems on the spot. What I would be looking for would be to see how each machine is running.
So that was made by 7th and 8th graders at Reading Southern. And if I'm still sharing my PowerPoint, I'd love to just show you the last few slides. And those are real numbers down there in Berks County and Schuylkill County. Those numbers actually came in 3 days of online voting, 151,000 votes. This is what we measured the last 4 years. You know, how are we doing? Are we making an impact? Facebook fans is something that we measured on our case study, and we wanted to know, are we getting to the parents? That's really important to introduce parents to the careers that are at our area manufacturers, and we are. That first screen talks about how many of the moms are really watching these videos. The program highlights we just looked at, our website visitors. Of course, we want to keep track of the website visitors and what our traffic looks like, but the contest impact that we were really looking at was our CTC schools. And that was how's the enrollment at our manufacturing programs at BCTC, Reading Muhlenberg CTC, Schuylkill Technology Center. And as you can see here, that the program, along with other programs in Berks County, this particular program has helped spike the enrollment and interest in manufacturing careers and the education needed. And so we are looking for partners to partner with What's So Cool, with MRC, with other area stakeholders. Our 2021 awards program will be televised on WFMZ this year on April 26th. And we would love for the Berks County to be a partner with us as a silver sponsor or gold sponsor and award presenter on that TV show. Some of the counties across Pennsylvania have partnered with their project leads, and that really is quite a statement on the career awareness program.
Karen, I also want to add that everyone can vote, and the voting takes place this year on April 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Excellent. That is very true, and you'll get word on that. We've got 2 final slides that I'm just going to quickly say because I feel like we're probably out of time. The Berks County Dream Team is coming fall of 2021. And this is a group of young professionals that we're training to go into the classroom to tell their career stories. Presently, at Berks County, we've recruited and onboarded 12 young professionals in STEM careers at 9 Berks County manufacturers, and we will be training them this spring, introducing the program at the What's So Cool Awards show that's going to be televised on the 26th of April, and then we will open that program up to the Berks County school districts in the fall.
Yeah, the great thing about the Dream Team is that you've got young professionals talking to high schoolers and middle schoolers and even in elementary school students and talking about not only their career, but also their professional life as well and their personal life.
That's right.
So Karen and Terry, we actually have a question on our comments. Where do people go to get more information on the program?
Thank you. They can go right to whatsocool.org, and my information is on there. my contact information, but there's also plenty on the site. You can look for what is happening in Berks County at a particular school, at a particular company. But either way, we can, I would be the person to contact.
And again, that website is?
what'ssocool.org, and that's 2 S's. what'ssocool.org.
We will post that up on our public section here. I'm doing that right now.
Thank you.
So it is up. Heather beat me to it, so it's there twice. You can dismiss the one, Heather. Very good. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
Look forward to it. I would encourage you to follow up formally. And Terry, if you just want to send an email to the commissioners to specifically ask us to be a sponsor and explain what's involved with each of those, and someone will get back to you, okay?
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving into our agenda, are there any additions or corrections for the March 18th Commissioner meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. We had one executive session since our last meeting, and that was March the 24th, and it dealt with personnel issues. Mary, is there any public comment on specific agenda items?
I don't see any regarding the agenda.
Item 1, authorizing under that Budget Department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2021 budget transfers in the amount of $90,030 and 2021 appropriations in the negative amount of $5,000 per listing dated March the 22nd of 2021. We have several items under HR. Item 1, authorize the appointment of Angelica Matias to Assistant County Solicitor in the Solicitor's Office. Item 2, authorize the appointment of Stephen Patton to Fiscal Officer at Children and Youth Services. And 3, authorize a $250 uniform clothing allowance for lieutenants and sergeants at the Berks County Jail. Several items listed under the Commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the temporary easement for construction between the Kempton Rod and Gun Club, Kempton, PA, and the County of Berks for access to a portion of the owner's property in order to replace a portion of an existing county bridge on Pine Creek Road in Albany Township and removal of an abandoned masonry bridge on a former unused public roadway. Item B, adopt a resolution ratifying, confirming, and approving execution by the chair of a letter on behalf of the Berks County Board of Commissioners to Tom Minnick, Vice President of Institutional Advancement, Alvernia University, supporting Alvernia University's Reading Collegetown project for funding from the Economic Development Administration to aid in the redevelopment of the facility located at 401 Penn Street in Reading. Item C, adopt a resolution authorizing acceptance and execution of the proposal letter dated March the 12th of 2021 from the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance to provide leadership development training for county department heads and other managers at a not to exceed amount of $16,300, subject to final review and approval by the County Solicitor's Office. Item D, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the agreement between the County of Berks and termed Berks County doing business as the Medicine Shop of Boyertown, Pennsylvania, to facilitate, schedule, organize, and staff a community vaccine clinic for a period prior to April 30th, 2021 to administer COVID-19 vaccinations to Berks County and surrounding county residents. Item E, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of a letter of support to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development on behalf of the West Reading Company Community Revitalization Foundation for a grant application for the Keystone Communities Program facade grant program to support the foundation's 5-year development plan for downtown West Reading. Item 2, a motion authorizing execution of contract agreements and amendments as set forth on the attached listing dated March the 23rd of 2021. There are a total of 7 contracts, 1 with the Berks County Workforce Development Board, 2 with Children and Youth Services, 2 with Facilities and Operations, and 2 with Information Systems. Item 3, motion to ratify and confirm payments is set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing dated March the 23rd of 2021 and the payment of electronic transfers and employee payroll.
A motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. We'll move now to our County Treasurer, Dennis Adams, with the Treasurer's Report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have an opening balance of $183,435,163.38. We have a balance to clear of $3,520,462.39, leaving us the balance today of $179,914,700.99.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to our County Controller, Sandy Graffius, with the Controller's Report.
Okay, gentlemen, here we go. Our total accounts payable, $8,273,599.78. We had a payroll this week. It was a supplementary payroll, $9,877.13. Wouldn't that be something if that was our payroll? For a grand total of $8,283,476.91.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Ron Seaman, our Berks County Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I just want to say to all, as we approach Passover and Holy Week this coming weekend, take a moment, everyone, think about the blessings we have in this country and look out for our fellow mankind who may not be as fortunate as we are. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And we'll move now to Commissioners' reports, and we'll begin with Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, and again, welcome everyone. On a sad note, we have reached a record number of overdose deaths in Berks County, 130. The Council on Chemical Abuse and the SOS Berks have been working diligently for years to turn those numbers in the other direction, so we need everyone's help. Pursuant to that, we have a media and public update this coming Wednesday, March 31st at 3:30, which is typically our weekly update for the Board of Commissioners. We will have a focus. This will be on Facebook, YouTube, and BCTV. If you can bring up the slide, Stephanie. It's an update on the opioid, COVID-19 and the opioid crisis. Be a discussion regarding the nature and the extent of the opioid overdose crisis, especially here in Berks County. This discussion will include such areas as what are and where do people get opioids, drugs, availability of the drugs, and overdose death rates. We will hear from COCA, the overview of the problem, from our district attorney, crimes associated with opioid or other substance use, from our coroner, deaths over the past 5 years and those trends, and from Dr. Santoro on healthcare issues and access to treatment, especially medication-assisted treatment. So please tune in next Wednesday, the 31st at 3:30 for updated information on our opioids coalition and what we're doing to combat the overdoses here in Berks County. It's very tragic and sad that many of the people couldn't get to treatment or counseling because of the shutdown and isolation. It's a terrible thing. We're working our tails off to try to get the message out and the word out to start trending these numbers back in a positive direction, not a negative direction. Thank you for the slide and hope to see everyone next Wednesday. 2 other items quickly. I just want to hope and pray for the Reading High basketball team. Go Reading High, class of 1977, as they try to win a second state championship for Reading High Red Knights. They've got a tall task against them with Archbishop Wood, the 9th ranked team in the country. But I know they've been playing together since kids, and it's just amazing to read the stories in our local media about these young men and the struggles and the trials they've been through, and really pulling together as brothers. So I think they're going to pull it out. It may be a nail biter till the end, but I think they're going to pull it out. So best of luck to the Reading High Red Knights as they move on for a second state basketball title. And lastly, if you can attend the game at the Giant Center in Hershey, the youth recreation field, which is now being managed by the Big Show, is ready to unveil their first baseball tournament this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They're starting out on a slow rollout. They're going to have 20 teams there this weekend. Our team was up there yesterday to meet with them for some of the final touches to get started. All 4 infields of the baseball diamonds are now fully synthetically turfed. It's a sight to behold. It's such an upgrade from where we were in the recent past, and they will continue to make efforts to improve that facility going forward. Within the next few weeks, additional lights will be installed on one of the baseball fields, and probably mid to late summer, 2 of the soccer fields will be turfed and they will be lit as well. So great things happening at the youth recreation field up off of County Welfare Road in Bern Township. If you want to see some great baseball, head up there Friday, Saturday, or Sunday this weekend. Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and we'll move now to Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, and thank you, Commissioner Barnhart, for your information as well. Just a few things. One, I want to welcome Angelica Matias as the Assistant Solicitor with CYS. I know she was really excited about the position, and so looking forward to the job she will be doing there. Also, just wanted to remind everyone about the hospitality industry grant. There's still a week and a half left for that. So if you know any restaurant owner, bar owner, caterer, hotel owner that has been affected by COVID, please have them go on and apply for that grant. There is still a chance. It is not a first come, first served. It's open through April the 5th. And then after that, once it closes, then they will review all the applications and determine the amount of the awards. So I want to get this information out there. I know there's a lot of businesses in this industry that have been hurt, and I really need the help getting this information out there. So please share it as far and as wide as you can to make sure that everyone who is in need at least is able to apply and has a chance to be able to get this money to help them move forward with their business. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera and Commissioner Barnhart. I have 2 items. I really encourage everyone to tune in next Wednesday to the SOS Berks presentation. I actually don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that Commissioner Barnhart is going to be leading that panel discussion. Commissioner Barnhart has been very, very involved with SOS Berks. He helped, along with Hoffman Publishing, to create a magazine. But the issue of addiction really has been brought home to me in the last several days, and I'm not going to share any names, but I was contacted by an aunt who was very concerned about her nephew. I know this lady. I don't know the young man. And she was concerned because he had been treated, if you will, through a local nonprofit, a great local nonprofit. Again, I'm not going to share names because my intent isn't to bring attention to the nonprofit or to the specific individuals, but to the reality of what some people face. This young man is realizing that addiction is a fearful and terrifying master. He knows he needs help. He's been back and forth from this particular nonprofit. They've tried to get him treatment. As recently as 2 days ago, in the early morning, he came back to that facility and said, I'm ready for treatment. Sometime yesterday, he left the facility. His aunt found out about it, and she drove down to near the facility, got out of her car, and walked the streets looking for her nephew. This is a critical issue. I know that if you haven't ever experienced someone dealing with addiction, you may have all kinds of thoughts on why it happens and that they're responsible exclusively. There are a lot of different factors involved, but the reality is it's an enormous problem, and it affects families, and people's hearts break when they see loved ones going through these types of situations. So the work of places like the Council on Chemical Abuse, the Cairn Foundation, Hope Rescue Mission, others, Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge, are so vitally important as they reach out to help people in our community. It's a real and very, very serious issue. And as Commissioner Barnhart pointed out, and this was a fear expressed early in the pandemic, that individuals dealing with addiction would be disproportionately impacted. And the recent data that came out, I think it came out, Kevin, was it in the last day or so, that we just went through a record period of deaths by overdose. Just very, very serious. One other issue I want to touch on. This morning I was on a phone call hosted by PennDOT for a number of local entities focusing on the proposal to toll the Lenhartsville Bridge on I-78. They talked about their plans statewide. I don't want to get into all of the details. I do want to share that I responded to the folks at PennDOT. I let them know that I do not support tolling of I-78 as long as we're keeping the current gasoline tax in place. They began by appropriately explaining that over the last 20 plus years, the gasoline tax revenues have been steadily declining for several reasons. Number one, more fuel efficient vehicles. But the bigger area is that there are more and more vehicles on the road that don't use gasoline or use it dramatically less gasoline. Hybrid vehicles. Electric vehicles pay nothing. And when I say pay nothing, they're not paying anything towards the infrastructure, roads, bridges, because that comes from gasoline. Compressed natural gas vehicles pay nothing for the infrastructure. Trucks, tractor trailers only pay about 80% of their impact, and they by far have the most serious impact on road surfaces and bridges. So the first thing I said to them is don't add another tax without getting rid of the old tax. People are being taxed to death. Number two, tolling concerns me. Recently, we learned that the Pennsylvania Turnpike is the most expensive toll road in America. I don't like the idea of tolling. And then I said, we need to address the underlying issue, and that is that the gas tax is the wrong way to raise revenue. And right now, it is the primary means to raise revenue for roads and bridges and transportation at both the state and the federal level. The right way, and it's easy to say, it's not particularly easy to do, is that users of transportation should pay. And that would mean that from a vehicle standpoint, I would pay based on the type, size, weight of my vehicle and the total miles traveled. I think everyone would agree, I happen to have a motorcycle, that a motorcycle shouldn't be paying the same dollar impact as an 18-wheel semi tractor trailer combination. And there was agreement on the call that that's the right way, but there is real difficulty in figuring out. And the final point that I made is tolls and the current gas tax system disproportionately impact the working poor that have vehicles for several reasons. Number one, they are the least likely people able to afford a hybrid vehicle, an electric vehicle, a compressed natural gas vehicle. Number two, they will tend to drive older vehicles that are less fuel efficient. And so there was agreement, at least from PennDOT, on the call that these were legitimate concerns. I made it clear at the end of my comments, once again, that I will not be supporting and, in fact, actively opposing the tolling of any of the proposed 9 interstate bridges spread throughout Pennsylvania, but specifically the tolling of I-78. With that, we'll move to comments from any of our row officers. Hearing none, we will move into public comment. Mary?
Thank you. Fred Zengraf, Sr., Berkshire Heights. Greetings, Commissioners. A free and fair November 3rd, 2020 election would have continued and improved upon President Donald Trump's accomplishments, some of which follow. Delivered a future of greater promise and opportunity for citizens of all backgrounds. Income and inequality fell for 2 straight years, and by the largest amount in over a decade. The bottom 50% of American households saw a 40% increase in net worth. Wages rose fastest for low-income and blue-collar workers, a 16% pay increase. African American homeownership increased from 41.7% to 46.4%. This is a small part of the January 2021 White House showcase list. The current administration policies will have a negative impact on these positive accomplishments to the detriment of our posterity. In every election, all parties should know the ground rules well ahead of time. Just like in financial systems, there must be standardized internal controls to rule out any possibility of illegal conduct. There can be no ambiguity. There can be no opportunity for counties to handle matters differently. There must be clearly defined rules and uniformity across the Commonwealth. To change the rules during the race and even up until the votes have already been counted is wrong and undermines the election process. That is why faith in the election system has been shaken for many. Copied from January 19, 2021 letter to 2 Pennsylvania legislative leaders from numerous county commissioners, including Berks Commissioners Leinbach and Rivera. The previous paragraph I could not agree with more, as well as entire letter contents, and appreciate effort to address travesty of the November 3rd, 2020 fraudulent election. Keep up the good fight for free and fair elections. Thank you and Godspeed. Chris Redinger, Fleetwood. Suppose you are a very kind-hearted person with a nice family living in a nice house in a nice neighborhood. Suppose a nice woman with her 2 children comes to you for help as she is homeless and has nowhere to go because the shelters are all full and has no family or friends to take her in. So you reluctantly agree, although it will be a burden for you and your family. When this nice woman arrives, she is joined by her 2 brothers, their wives and children, and 3 sisters and their husbands and children. Now you are overwhelmed. You would love to take them all in and help everyone, but can't possibly feed, clothe, and shelter that many people. And as you look down the street, a line is forming to your house, and there are even more coming. Is that not what is happening to the United States with President Biden's let them come in policy, because that's who we are? I would suggest it more humane that we try to help make their countries great again, because that's who we really are. The president of El Salvador said if his people had security and jobs, they would gladly stay where they were born and raised. Something to think about. Dwight Wegman, Lower Heidelberg Township. Is it possible to get regular reports from election services at the weekly commissioners meeting to describe what actions they are taking to update and improve the accuracy of voter rolls? If actions are not taken now to do a thorough review of voter rolls to remove dead individuals, people who have moved, and people who are not citizens, then the opportunity for voter fraud exists for the next election. This does not require legislation, since it is just enforcing existing law. I encourage that commissioners and election services to use the findings of the report generated by the Berks GOP task force as a guide for where to focus efforts. Robert L. Pyle II of Greenwich Township. I have lived in Berks County since I was 13. I'm getting ready for retirement. My children and grandchildren live here too. Please do not increase our property taxes as a result of creating a county health department. I'm 62 years of age, and our community has made it this long without a health department. We are a resilient people, but a county health department will be required to implement the orders of Governor Wolf and the Secretary of Health. We don't want that. Christina Worley, Coomer Township. Good morning, commissioners. It is my understanding the county does have a pension board. Can the commissioners provide insight into resolutions that the pension board, is considering? Crystal Kowalski, why I'm missing. Good morning, commissioners. I am once again asking, have the positive COVID cases from the prison pushed our county into the substantial spread category? This is an important question because it has very real consequences for members of our community. This past week, I was talking with a friend whose mother lives in a nursing home. She was telling me how relieved she was to have recently been permitted to visit her mother in person. That long-awaited and very needed experience was taken away last week because Berks County has once again reached a positivity rate close to 10%. The positive cases coming from the prison are part of that rate. Let's be clear, an elderly mother cannot see her daughter in person because of that positivity rate. What community consequence is going to be impactful enough that you and the other stakeholders in the criminal justice system enact meaningful change? Through this current outbreak, the prison population has held steady at about 700 people. Weekenders continue to be incarcerated, and people are being incarcerated on non-violent minor offenses every day. Make no mistake, these are choices actively being made and priorities knowingly being set. It is unconscionable to prioritize maintaining the punitive status quo of the criminal justice system at the expense of the health and well-being of our elders and the entire community. Thank you. John Archer, Spring Township. What do the commissioners and our county economic development team believe are the most significant selling points and attractions which will attract new business entities and industries to Berks County? Jess Royer, Spring Township. Good morning, commissioners. Does the county have any specific plans or goals as to the allocation of funds provided by the American Rescue Plan? Similarly, do you have guidance or suggestions that you would offer to municipalities in Berks as to how to deploy these resources? Thank you. David Kurzweig, Kumu Township. When will ballots be ready for mail-in recipients? There will be several ballot questions on ballots, so all registered voters have a reason to vote by mail-in if they so desire. Celine Schreier from Reading. While reviewing archived notes and meeting minutes, I have noticed that the February 25th meeting has been removed from the county website. It's concerning as a citizen because it is another barrier against transparency. And it appeared that this was the meeting where commissioners voted to send a letter of support to the ICE white paper proposal regarding the Berks Detention Center. I'm interested to learn why they were removed and at what date they will be added again. If this was not the meeting, please indicate when this letter was voted on and reinstate the February 25th meeting minutes. In addition to this, I once again urge the commissioners to support our efforts in making this letter public as it impacts all of us. ICE does not need your support in continuing to spread harm across the country. Our community does not need a new detention center. We need to invest in the health and safety of our county by turning the center into a public resource, one that could help battle the worsening opioid epidemic that Commissioner Barnhart highlighted in this very meeting. And that concludes the comments in the Q&A.
So our Q&A is closed. I'm going to address 3 items quickly. Number one, the February 25th meeting minutes have not been removed. They are there. I posted the link to those minutes in the published section of the Q&A. If IS can also post that in Facebook and YouTube. I'm not sure where the individual was looking, but I went in, they're right there under Commissioner Board, and you can look at meeting minutes. As far as the American Rescue Plan, the guidelines are still being written by the federal government. So any real action, we are taking action from the standpoint of preparing, but until we have the guidelines, it's going to be difficult to make any final determinations. I believe that you are also aware that individual municipalities are getting a direct allocation, and they will also get their guidelines from the federal government. On the issue of Berks County and economic attractiveness, Pam Schupp may want to jump in on this as well, since she's our expert. But I can tell you there are several things that are attractive about Berks County. One of the most significant is its geographical location relative to the Northeast. We continue to be very attractive. I-78 in the northern part of the county, I-76 in the southern part of the county are excellent routes to access markets. New York, New England, Philadelphia, and the Mid-Atlantic region down to Washington, D.C. This is the most populated region of the entire country. Number two, the cost of living in Berks County makes this an attractive place relative to living, raising a family, building a business, running a business, etc. That's one of the reasons that you've seen pretty dramatic commitment to the community and a dramatic growth in really 3 areas. And Dan Fogarty talked about this several weeks ago, but manufacturing continues to be our #1 industry, right around 33,000 jobs. Number 2, healthcare jobs, right somewhere around 28,000 jobs. And number 3, surprisingly, are construction jobs. There are a large number of construction companies based here in Berks County. And again, it makes it very attractive. That's all that I have. And Pam, if you're able to jump in on the economic, if you could, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Are you there, Pam? I don't hear her or see her, so I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
She's out working on economic development opportunities.
Probably.
Well, there's just a few things I want to add, and I won't already cover what Commissioner Leinbach covered that I have on my note. But in reference to the questions of economic development, something else that businesses look for when they're relocating here is the workforce. Do they have the workforce with the education or the background, whatever it may be, that they need for their business? And that's something that they have found in Berks County, apart from the other things that Commissioner Leinbach already mentioned. And the question that Jesse Royer had, the Center for Excellence in Local Government had a meeting this week with the municipalities on the topic of the American Rescue Plan, and they are working with different people in reference to that, and will be keeping the municipalities up to date in that aspect, as well as more information comes down from the federal government. And in reference to the pension board, the next pension board meeting is April 26th. I know it's posted on here, the link to be able to get there. But if you are not looking at the comments here, the next meeting is April 26th. It is a public meeting as well. And there are no current resolutions that we are working on at this moment. Recent ones were an agreement to continue working with SEI and the actuarial valuation report, which is an overview of the pension fund performance. Those were the last 2 resolutions that we dealt with. But please feel free to join us on April 26th at our next meeting. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
I'd like to cover a couple items very quickly. Under economic development, I think one of those hidden gems we have here in Berks County is ample supply of water. So if you're a large user of water or a bottling plant, it's a great place to locate a facility. Two of the detriments, I would say, and I hate to take the other side of the coin, but our taxes are high, which is a concern when developers come to Berks County. That's the total package. That's the
school taxes.
School/municipal/county taxes are higher than surrounding counties. I'll say it that way. And there is a fair amount of resistance to development in Berks County. There's typically, even though sites are zoned properly, there's always a lot of pushback in Berks County's community. So again, for all the positives we have, there certainly are some negatives. And I'm sure it's not just Berks County, but a lot of pushback comes when developers come to town and people are resistant to change. I want to cover when are ballots available. As of today, there are ballot challenges in the Court of Common Pleas, challenging people's petitions whether they should be on the ballot. And then ultimately, at some point in the future, the state will have challenges to ballot people on the ballot. We are really dictated by when all of those challenges have been cleared up, dismissed, whatever, before we can actually print ballots. So we don't actually automatically wiggle our nose and print ballots until all those challenges have been satisfied. And last but not least, on the pension thing, I just want to remind people who are not aware of this, we do have a defined benefits pension program here at the Berks County, but every single employee is required to contribute 5% of their gross pay toward their pension. There's no free ride here. People assume because you're a government employee, everything's borne on the backs of the taxpayer. That's not true. In fact, the taxpayers do, on occasion, make up the shortfall to keep the pension fund solvent. But by the same token, we've got umpteen millions and millions of dollars being pumped into the pension fund on an annual basis by the at least 5% that people are required to place into their pension plan here at Berks County. So thank you.
One other thing, the question comes up quite often about the quality of the voter lists, and I see that again. The County of Berks does everything we are allowed by law to keep our lists current. People that have moved, people that have passed away, often are put in an inactive status, but they're still listed. And part of that is because of a rule change many years ago, prior to the time Commissioner Barnhart and I were elected. It used to be very simple. If you didn't vote once every 4 years, your name was pulled and you were going to have to re-register to vote. The pendulum's kind of swung the other way. It can take up to 8 years under current state law to remove somebody that is no longer a qualified voter from the voter rolls. I dealt with this several weeks ago, but I've talked to Joe Kantz. Both of my colleagues know who Joe Kantz is. He is vice chair of the statewide election reform commission, and asked that the rules surrounding cleaning up the voter rolls also be dealt with in election reform, and they've agreed to that. The other thing is you need to keep pressure on the legislature, and I'm not taking a shot at the legislature. I'm just telling you that's where the reform is going to have to start. And ultimately, right now it is dragging somewhat in Harrisburg. There, to the best of our knowledge, there will not be any election reform coming out that will impact the primary election. I was on a call on this with the County Commissioners Association, as well as a call with Representative Seth Grove last week. And in both calls, we were told the same thing. It's more likely to have something in place for the general election, but not the primary. Reform is going to have to take place at the state level. So please reach out to your legislators, reach out to the governor, let them know what you believe relative to election reform. My position is really very simple. The system needs to be honest and fair and the same county to county. There can't be different rules, or because of a lack of clarity of rules, done one way in one county and another way in another county. And ultimately, people need to be able to trust that whether they vote in person or they vote by mail, absentee or a regular mail-in ballot, that they know their vote will count the way they intended. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, the meeting stands adjourned.